This is the FRC Roundtable, coming to you all the way from Minnesota. Your host team 2052 Nightcrawler presents this weekly FRC gathering where FIRST robotics competition teams take cooperation off the field. Share your knowledge, give and get advice, solve a challenge, or celebrate what makes your team special. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, I think I got it. I think I remember how to do this from 3 months off here. So welcome everybody to first round of Roundtable for the new season. I think I know everybody on the call so far. So if anyone wants to kick it off with sharing, what any news they've got, things they did over the summer, changes they're making for this year. Feel free to hop in. It's a pretty open agenda. I've got a couple of things that I think I could prompt us with, but I'd love to just hear if anyone has anything they want to share, any news.
I can share some things that we're doing at 2472, working really hard with the students to implement sprints and better planning. We tried it last year with some success, but getting out ahead of it preseason this year and having more established mentors and roles was great. We had a lot more volunteers last year who were willing to step in and help, but just sometimes that communication amongst the adults takes a little time for everyone to kind of figure out where they need to be so we can help better support the students.
That's great. Are you using a Scrum board or something like that with you mentioned sprints, so I assume you're doing a Scrum or Kanban type style?
Yeah, not the Scrum exactly, but more just the Agile. Just okay. What are we working on? What are the steps? Breaking down the task and doing things in smaller things. We've noticed sometimes even when they get in, what do we call it? Maybe crisis mode, things aren't working. Then instead of focusing on one thing at a time, they try and change a number of things. I think at the state fair, I wasn't able to be there, but the robot was having some issues and they were doing 2 or 3 things at one time and not trying to just isolate one issue and work on that.
Nice. Yeah, I'd like to hear progress updates on how that's going. It's always great when we see, process improvement steps and see how that goes and what the execution looks like. It'd be great to get updates as the year goes on.
Absolutely. I know we have more participation amongst some of our mentors. I think today was a bit of a tough day for folks, but we want to share what's working for us. And we've certainly benefited from the input that other teams have had for our group. So when we have that opportunity, we want to give that back to the group.
I'm curious, and maybe it's too early to tell, but how has the trip to Champs last year changed the atmosphere at Centurions? Are you hearing a lot about new students interested in joining? Did you have a lot of engagement? I mean, I don't even know if you met over the summer, but has that changed anything for the team?
I think it has. It's shown the kids what is possible. We did send five students, I believe, to visit Red Thunder in Michigan this July to take part in their leadership seminar that they were putting on. They met more in the afternoon and evening, and then the kids had an opportunity to visit other things during the day. Like they went to Michigan State, they went to Kettering, they went to the Michigan State Capitol in Lansing. But they know they're starting off at a different place than they ever have before. So some of the things they've had that they've done, they've been more thoughtful. We did just have recruitment last week and had a very good amount of other students come in, a very diverse group, which we're excited to see. That's always something that we're trying to encourage at our school in Circle Pines. Maybe not the most diverse in general, so being able to pull in students from a lot of different backgrounds just helps the team. And they did meet over the summer. They're working on a showbot, which would be a t-shirt cannon. It's been their goal for a while, so they're still working on that. and they just like to be together, which is probably the biggest thing. Even if it's not robot related, the team is doing other things together. So the kids they found their people and like to hang out.
Stacy, I think I was talking to Dan, or maybe it was Keith, but is this the second time you guys have been to champs in the team's history, and the first time was rookie all-star award? Is that right?
I think it's been the third time, but it's been a good, I bet, 15 years since they've gone.
Okay.
And now the kids have got a taste of it. They want to do what they can to get back there again.
That's great. Excellent. Anybody else have anything there? Anybody have anything else any news, any changes for the team that they want to share? I think I mentioned this for Nightcrawler at the end of the year last year, but a piece of feedback we got from our captains is that they're feeling overwhelmed. I would say it's probably been 5 or 6 years ago. The mentors and captains, well, sort of the mentors, started putting more responsibility on the team and really trying to make the team student-led, student-organized. And a piece of the feedback we got from our students last year was that it was too much, and the students were pushing back and wanted to push more things back on the mentors. So we're going to be trying to do a lot of that this year in terms of the training. Our students want the fall, our captains want the fall to not train the incoming students, but instead to work on new things. So our programming team wants to spend a lot more time this fall working on vision and odometry, and they want the time away from teaching the other kids to work on those special projects. Our build students also have some things they want to do. We bought sword modules early. They want to put together a practice chassis early. They want to do more machining this fall. So our captains are looking at trying new things with some assembly stuff, and trying to get us in a better spot for, instead of putting together sword modules and trying to remember how we did that a long time ago, they want to put together a set in the fall and make a bona fide practice chassis so that the assembly of the real robot will go quicker in January. So things like that. So that's a change for us. It's interesting that, I think a lot of times teams say, we want our teams to be truly student-led. It was interesting that our students kind of pushed back on that and said, it's too much. We don't get times to do the things that we want to do to try to help advance the team when we do all this procedural organizational stuff. So, good for them, right? I mean, to be mature enough to push back and say, no, we can't do all this work. We need you to do some of it, is really good. I think it's a pendulum. I probably, when I joined the team 10 years ago, the mentors were probably doing too much. And now we've gotten to the point where the students are overwhelmed. So we'll swing back, find a balance.
Roughly how many students is that spread across when you think about the workload?
This year, in the past couple of years, we've added more student leaders. So we have our 4 core captains. So we have our overall team captain, who's Nicole. Nicole's on the call here. Nicole, you want to kind of give a rundown of all of your responsibilities as long as you're on the call? That would be great.
Yeah, sure. So for being the team captain, overall, my responsibilities, what I see it as, is kind of be making sure the team is like staying together and kind of like watching over, but we're all level to other captains. So it's just, I kind of want to make sure everything is going well and flowing well. And also just like, again, though we want to like, we kind of push back on student, I also want to help like newer members feeling more welcomed in. And so when they come in, it's just, I can able to help them with that and just kind of just being there for everyone. That's how I see my job. And also just coordinating with everybody, with like mentors and students, making sure everything's up to date and all that stuff.
And you also run all of our meetings. So the agenda is the agenda is your responsibility. The team calendar is your responsibility. Nicole's also our website lead. So all the updates to the website happen because Nicole does them. Hopefully she can get train someone else to help her with that this year.
Hopefully.
And kind of, if there's anything that sort of needs to be done, like we need to put together a form for sponsors. If no one else can do it, it has generally fallen on the team captain to make sure those tasks get done. The other captains we have are build and programming and media. I think that's a pretty common thing across a lot of teams. But last year we started expanding because we were getting feedback that students were feeling overwhelmed. We expanded our leadership roles. So we also have a CAD CAM lead. Isaac's on the call. He's our CAD CAM lead. So anything that is related to running our CNC, primary person maintaining the robot CAD. Isaac, do you want to share anything? 3D printing?
Yeah, so again, basically anything related to CAD and like not just doing stuff on the CNC, but also like improving it for future years, getting stuff documented.
And then we have, this year we have an autonomous lead. Half of our robot code is auto. And so when our, especially with the amount of effort we put into vision last year and realizing that every minute we spend writing vision, we're not working on improving our auto. I think that was a really good division this year, so that our autonomous lead, Afomia, she can work on getting kids understanding subsystems and commands, and not only how to build them, but how to plug them together in autonomous mode. While our programming lead, Caleb, can be focusing on sort of the nitpicky details of, is our swerve drive tuned appropriately? Is our vision system set up right? How are we tracking April tags for shooting versus how we're tracking it for driving? So I think that was a good division for us this year. We'll see how that goes. We've never had two leaders in the programming side. We've had shared build captains and co-captains, and we've had Isaac, this is his second year as our CAD lead. So we've had split responsibility in build before, but we've never split responsibility in programming. And then we have a student who is interested in being an impact award leader. So we have an impact leader this year to work on outreach and our impact tasks. So that's the spread. I don't think I missed anybody. I hope I didn't. I think that's everybody. So that's how we kind of break down our leadership. We've done co-captains in the past. We've had really mixed success with co-captains. We've had co-team captains. Some worked really well together. Some didn't do a good job of balancing the workload. We've had co-build captains before. That was really hard to try to figure out responsibility. And so I like carving off CAD CAM for Isaac, and Isaac's done an amazing job of improving those skills for our team. So I think the co-captain thing, because it was a little bit more nebulous of you guys figure out how to split up your tasks, didn't work great. But when we defined off sort of sub leadership roles, that seems to have worked a lot better for us on our team.
Sorry, I probably don't listen. I'm a slow listener. That's all was really super interesting. And I'm curious how Nicole and Isaac might reflect on what Scott said about pushing the load back up a little bit to the adults. But roughly how many students did you say? I know you've said it last year, and
the team normally has between 40 and 50 students. Last year was our smallest team we've had since 2017, maybe. I think we had 37 last year, something like that. But normally we have 40 or 50 students on the team. I think our largest year we came into in October with 53 by November, maybe. I think that was the biggest year that we've had. But Nicole and Isaac, I mean, do you have thoughts on pushing back up?
Well, I know I did some CAD training, like kind of lecturing, I guess would be the best way to describe it. Both the year before and my first year as CAD CAM lead, whatever it's called. But that's just something that the mentors could do, because a lot of the time, instead of actually like expanding the skills of returning students who or have some interest in CAD or getting students into CAD. A lot of the time was spent on just kind of getting accounts set up, and a lot of the administrative and like introductory stuff is better suited for like, or I feel is better suited for mentors to take care of. Well, like stuff like how to design a 4-bar linkage or how to actually like integrate a motor into an assembly is something that like I can work with individually. So it's nice having, or at least planning to have, the division of labor with the mentors.
You said administrative? Is that right?
Yeah, like we use Onshape, and I would say half of the CAD training time last year was making sure everyone was getting into Onshape, and throughout like half of the time that I was working with students or other students, it was just getting people into CAD or into Onshape, into our team drive, and like kind of getting their account set up.
Resolving the access issues, all the stuff that comes up around that.
Yeah.
And Isaac, when you say half your time, you're talking about fall training, right? I mean, I don't.
Yeah, fall training, not winter training.
Yeah. One of the things I want to add to that with Isaac, because I was helping primarily with the CAD team in the fall last year, less so after that, but mostly in the fall, was that one of the things that we learned with Isaac specifically is that in those first few weeks, we really had to protect Isaac's time because he was the primary lead on designing the robot, or taking the robot designs and getting them into CAD so that we could then cut the parts on the CNC that we needed. And it's a super high stress time. I mean, everybody's waiting for the parts to get cut, and before they can get cut, they need to get put on the model because they need to be the right size and they need to fit. And what we found is we really had to work hard to protect his time from students that were just learning CAD and had really basic questions. And so I think that's a lesson learned for us this year, is that Isaac will happily sit with anybody one-on-one and work through kind of the more advanced, harder stuff, and teach them what they need to do to put a gearbox on an assembly or something like that. But when it comes time for us to like get this robot on the CNC, we got to get this part designed tonight so we can be cutting it first thing at our next meeting. We can't sacrifice Isaac's expert time to help somebody who can't figure out how to draw a mate or get an extrusion to work the right way. And so we need to do a better job of having the mentors run interference on those kind of introductory type things so that our captains can maximize their production and use their expertise the way that they should be using it.
Yep, we found something really similar last year, Scott, with our student who was the CAD lead was also running a lot of our CNC equipment, and that was a total time zapper for him, where he was trying to make sure the whole robot's put together and then spending every meeting, actually cutting the parts versus reviewing the model with everybody else and spreading out the work. So interesting to hear other people are having the same, we're kind of making the same realization anyway, that we got to delegate that and keep our CAD design gurus glued to the computer the first couple weeks anyway.
We had similar things with our programming group last year too. We did not use April tags the first year they were available. We used the reflective tape. So last year was our first time using April tags. And in the fall, our programming captain was trying to learn April tags and set up a sample or a test system to verify everything would work, and was constantly being drug away to help somebody who couldn't find a missing semicolon, or things like that a mentor really should have said, I'll take care of this, you stay focused on vision and work on that. So I think those are good takeaways. I think the students were right to say, if we have these goals both as a sub team but also individually that we want to try to accomplish, and we need help to try to take care of the low-hanging fruit so that we can stay focused. And so very mature, good decisions, good communication skills from our captains back to our mentors to request that.
Yeah, definitely. Relative to that, I'd say we've spent a lot of time in the past year or two, the adults, the mentors, trying to get the captains to delegate up or down, up to us. Up and down is maybe not the best way to say it, but either to us or to the students rather than just deciding to do the task because it's just right in front of them. So yeah, that's a challenge.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. I mean, everything's compressed this year. I don't know when your start dates are, but one of the changes we're having this year is we're starting 2 weeks earlier than we've ever started before because MRI, the off-season competition in Roseville, for those of Fire Bears, for those of you who aren't in the metro, MRI's the last week of September this year. And so to try to get the new students in and try to get them acclimated to what in the world even is robotics and give them an idea of what is a competition, what am I going to expect? We had to get them in as soon as possible so that we can have them attend. Hopefully they'll attend MRI that first Saturday. It's kind of, we're going to start on a Wednesday and we're going to say, oh, by the way, you got this thing all day Saturday. It'll be interesting to see how many of our new students are able to do that with virtually no warning. But I guess it's not that Saturday, it's the following Saturday, but anyway, it's really short. And then we're doing mini trials again. Our students love it. They absolutely mandate that we participate in many trials. We have the option to delay that kickoff and not do that kickoff that first week of October. I know that Jason Herzog's group, who actually helps run many trials, they purposely delay it so they have a very compressed schedule and they kind of get the kids into crunch mode. We use that as our design training, and so we want as much time as we can to teach the kids brainstorming and iterating and design process. And so everything just has to start so early, with MRI being so early and then mini trials starting right away. It's one of the things that it's going to be a rush. Hopefully, with everything being early, that'll maybe give us November and December to really do a good job on being prepared for January. It always seems like November and December go way too quick. So maybe with moving up the competitions a little earlier, the off-season competitions, that'll give us more time in the back end.
You're the moderator, but I'm kind of curious. It was good to hear what Isaac had to say, his perspective on that student or captain mentor push. Nicole, do you have any perspective on that?
Kind of, but not really. Just since, first off, this is my first year being captain, and it'll also be my third year on the team. Since last year, I was mainly working on the website. That was all on me. So, although it's something that I could have handled, I couldn't really see. I wasn't with other people. I wasn't I was with other people, but I couldn't I wasn't on a build team or a program, so I couldn't really see what's happening. But I did notice with the CAD and the whole on-shape logging, I definitely saw that, and it was 2 weeks that was just spent just trying to work on accounts, and it's just so I definitely was able to see some of that, but I personally don't have any of my own experiences with it, with the mentor and student pushback type of thing.
And I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said push. I probably should have said whatever, tension or balance. But so sorry about the bad language.
You are all good. I understood.
Does anybody else have any changes that they're planning to make to the team, or their students have requested, or just things that are different this year?
Something that 2472 has done is we've changed the focus for our media team and made it business and marketing. So kind of combining sponsorship, promotion, outreach in one category, a little bit of a takeoff of some things we learned from other teams when we went to championships, and broadening it out a little bit to draw in some more people and give them some more focus that maybe it just isn't working on the first impact award.
That's also interesting. I'd love to hear a report on how that's go. Nightcrawler seems to have our public relations / media team has just evolved so dramatically in the 10 years that I've been involved. And initially the team was called public relations. And then we felt like we needed to have a dedicated media team. So we created a PR with a media sub team. Everybody wanted to be on the media sub team. So the only person on our public relations team was our PR captain. And she carried pretty much all the load that wasn't media. We just couldn't get kids interested. There was a year when we didn't even have a media team or a PR media team at all. We had one student that came back who was interested in not build and not programming. And so that year we opened it up and we allowed anybody, if you didn't have a task on build or programming, that you could then participate in building something for the social media channels. You could do photography at an event if you did not have another role at the event. We left it sort of as an open, we called it task force because it wasn't a permanent home. So you could join that task force and you could be on the media task force. And that actually revitalized our entire non-programming, non-build sub-team. And now we have kids that want to be 100%. Kids that had started as I'm a programmer or I'm a build student realized that they loved photography or they loved creating content for social media or they loved doing the outreach type stuff and decided, no, this is what I want to do. And had we not let it be sort of open for anybody to do that 1 year, they would have probably never discovered that was actually their sweet spot. So our PR and media team just continues to change and evolve. And I don't see that changing. I think it's a very cyclical thing because it's just so many different things that people do, and it's hard to nail down that group.
That is interesting to hear. We've really tried a few different methods to gather some more participation on the team and understand the budget. I'm the booster president too, so it's important for the students to understand where money is coming from and have them make choices on what's the most important components to purchase. And we unfortunately don't have an unlimited budget, but we're sitting pretty good this year, coming off a year at championships, and we're almost asking. We tried it last year with limited success for each of the main subgroups to send a participant to the finance team at the time, so that at least they understand what our constraints are and what we can work within. We're also doing the same thing on the safety side because that touches all of the groups, but it's hard to have a dedicated person all of the time from each group on safety. But it is kind of that overarching thing that we're expecting for all of the kids, but not just physical safety, but kind of their mental health too.
That's good to hear. I'm happy to hear that you're putting the students in the budget. We have all of our leadership come together, mentors and captains, and we do a budget meeting every fall. We'll do ours sometime in October because September's just going to be too busy. But we ask our captains to bring their recommendation for a budget. We obviously share with them. They have access to what we do every year because I'm also the booster treasurer, so I'm pushing out finance updates every month with here's what we budgeted, here's where we're at, and so the students see that throughout the year. And then we ask them to come with what do you want to do, and we talk through goals for the robot, goals for programming, goals for media. Sometimes media say, hey, we really want to we want to put cameras on the robot, we want GoPros on the robot, or we want cameras on our drivers. This year we're looking at actually selling some of our cameras and replacing buying some new things that media's never had before with the money that we get from selling our old DSLRs. I'm excited that you're pushing your students into the money part of the team, because when you're basically self-funded like a lot of robot teams are, it's important to have the kids know that they need to work within a budget. Go ahead, Jeremiah.
I have a question for you, Stacy, and anybody else who. So we we don't have a booster club, and I'm trying very hard to work. Have a few families come together to start a booster club for our program because that would alleviate some of the stresses off of my back. Of because I feel like if I'm not aggressively involved with where our fundings come from, we ain't going anywhere. So I don't mind like writing for grants and applying for grants, but like this stuff like fundraiser and a dinner party and what those kind of things, I kind of am wanting somebody else to kind of run that kind of thing and the paperwork with the school. That part I can handle, but not the logistical like and I have a family, a dad who's fantastic on it there and getting those kind of. But I don't want him getting burnt out, and then we don't have that help anymore. So those of you that have booster clubs, a booster team, please send me your pointer. How do you start it? How do you go about it without making somebody offended, meaning administrator or you know vice on both sides, parents or I just we've talked about it. We just haven't put anything in motion yet. And in my school, we call it Ashby time. Everything have an Ashby time. Ashby time is like island time, and I don't like island time. I'm more of the go, 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 go. Let's get it done. And but that's just me.
This actually could be a really good topic for an entire roundtable. Honestly, if we can get enough people pulled together, it'd be neat to pull in the boosters from all the different teams and share their advice. I would love to hear the differences. I mean, I think our team runs very differently from a lot of teams. From just a finance point of view, I know that it seems maybe this is a weird generalization just because of the coaches that I know, but it seems like the teams in the metro are often more run by volunteers, and the teams in the outstate part of Minnesota are more closely associated with the school, and even honestly sometimes better funded through the school. And I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's just a perception that I have.
That is the second half is actually a problem. Most times, with the Greater Minnesota area teams, we have the greatest funding my school would do to our team is making sure they pay for me driving the kids, and then they give me a stipend for. Now they just started that 3 years into the program for pretty much the same level as they will give to like a drama club, advisor. And I mean, I told the principal the other day, I was like, I didn't start this chaotic program for the money gain necessarily, but in terms of treating the programs on an equitable level, we have a pretty much mostly all year because we meet in the summers, we meet in the fall, so we have an all year program with these kids, and some of my older kids now starting to actually push back and be like, why can't we get this? Why can't we get that? And I told the guys, like, when you do this, it tells my kids that what they do is not important. So when I asked for funding one time, well, we do fund your program. I'm like, yeah, well, we barely don't even have anywhere in this building that we can drive our robot. We built a really nice robot this season, and when we went to Grand Forks, it was more like a practice match. That's when we started breaking things that could be broken, figuring them out and fixing them. And then when we came to St. Cloud, the kids felt like they actually had more of a competition. When we came back from Grand Forks, I was driving the kids to Alexandria every week and a weekly to have a practice, opportunity. Our gymnasium was not being used by us to drive because then the robot would leave marks. It just goes beyond all these different. So the support, I mean, yes, the program I encouraged and welcomed. However, where the rubber meets the road, logistical support and resources are very sparse for a lot of this, other methods that I talked to in the NRC, program too. And NMRC is Northern Minnesota Robotic Conference.
I feel like this would be a great topic, and I think that the important part of a topic like that is to not focus on the support we're not getting, but how we're getting around it, or
Yeah.
how we're accommodating that. I feel like honestly, I would much rather put my initiatives and efforts towards finding solutions to the support we're not getting from the school than try to fight for support. Um, I just feel like it's just so much easier to go out in the community and get support than it is to try to get things changed within the school. It's a big machine, and it's hard to push big machines where it's easier to talk one-on-one with folks in the community and get support there.
Well, but
Um,
you are right, though. And that's kind of why I told the kids a lot. It's like, I told them, was like, going for there's a point where I'm gonna save my energy for when the fight matters versus let's put our energy on something else that can give us a greater gain. Because at the end of the day, and I took this argument with the MSHSL, one of their administrator, the people who should know, and I asked because I asked her the question about needing, do I need to have a head coach license? Because something happened in my school I'm also a golf coach, and one of our kids could not be escorted to state, and now the AD started asking all these questions about robotics. So then I went over to MSHSL, and she's like, well, robotics is not a sport, even though you consider yourself a sport, and you should be grateful that you're not a sport. And so then I went one step further, and I asked her, I said, why does Minnesota State High School League define as a sport that does not fit robotics program? And then she wrote me back, I honestly don't know. So I'm like, okay, you can legislate something, but you don't know what do. So from that point on, I was like, you know what, let put out, like, just what you just said, Scott, just put your energy where it matters, where you can get
right.
the greater gains, because you're dealing with an organization that doesn't even know what it's rejecting necessarily or treating poorly, and so the value, the outcome, might as well don't fight the fight that you can't win.
Well, and I've gotten to this point in my life where I just would rather focus on what positives we can have happen, and a fight's always a negative thing. And I'm just tired of fighting. I don't want to fight. I don't want to complain about we didn't get this or we didn't get that. I just want to put my efforts towards saying, okay, here's what we have available to us. How do we go find everything else that we need? And so I like the idea of the Booster Club talk, because the Booster Club is not about trying to fight for changes within the school district. It's about how do we add to what we already have. Steve, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, no, I was going to make the comments, Steve, with the mentor with the Nightcrawler. It's just that we're working a lot on like corporate sponsors, and again, this is probably a topic, as you mentioned, Scott, to do at a later time. But what we've been doing is just basically focusing on local businesses. Like last year, we had the local Caribou, sponsor us. Now, they provide a coffee or whatever, but it just like asking parents to say, who do you work for? And most often there might be some companies that will have a sponsorship link, as long as the employee is engaged with the team, that they would be able to provide some sort of monies or sponsors to that. That was one area that we kind of, brainstormed on how to get to it. Also, a bunch of our other parents came together, and at the local pizza place, Cub Foods, these are places that they basically walked into a Cub Foods, asked the manager saying, hey, this is what it is. And we had some, documentation, of course, literature about the team and whatever. So they basically just went to every possible little small business. Our local State Farm representative gives us stuff. It's just, I don't know. Just one thought was just like the local businesses nearby.
Oh, we have a tax professional. Thank you, Stacy. Stacy just made a comment that she's a CPA. Yep. I can tell you that I do the taxes for the team, and it's much simpler now than it used to be. And I could spend all day talking about how I've modified the accounting to make tax reporting easier. But yeah, taxes are another thing, especially if you're funding majority of your team. You're going to push over that $50,000 limit pretty quick. If you're funding the majority of your team and you're doing multiple regionals, and if you go to champs. So yeah, it doesn't take.
I got another topic, but I don't want to break away from the financials or the taxes.
I don't. Does anyone else have anything they want to chat about, finances or taxes or anything like that? Okay, go ahead, Steve.
Okay, so I want to take a poll. What do people do for picking up your kit of parts? This year, Irondale is going to be like a place where you can come and pick up your parts. This is for January 4th. What does your team do? Do you actually go to have a connection, a group that you meet on January 4th and show the kickoff actually occurring, or do you go to another school and where do you pick up the kit of parts and I just wanted to find out if there was any what other teams do for that.
You're saying, are you sending the whole team to the kickoff?
Yeah, or like the person that's picking up the kit of parts. So they typically stay with the team that you're at the place where you're picking up the parts. Because usually the parts are only made available immediately after the broadcast ends. So is someone going to the broadcast at the location for the kit of parts, or are they just picking up a later time? Or I'm just kind of curious. Do you understand my question?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I guess I'll say on 2847 Fairmont, Minnesota, we get our whole team together at our school. We have a big potluck. We invite the parents. We make a big deal out of it, trying to get everyone on the team kind of in the loop on what's going on with the watching the broadcast. And then we send one mentor to go pick up our kit. And for us, the closest one's Mankato. And so that mentor just whoever, draws the short straw, or whoever's feeling wants to go on the solo adventure and do that. And honestly, we barely get, I feel like we were a third of the way through analyzing the game and they're back with the kit, after the broadcast. So we used to take the whole team up there years ago and, kind of make a day out of it, but we really found it chewed too much into our schedule and that kind of excluded the parents and things. And we always have alumni come to it. And so that's what we've been doing. We've having a good time with it. I don't see us changing it really.
We have a parent who actually does it for us the last 2 years. And that's really increased our, kickoff day productivity, because then what I say on the board is, I want all your dumb ideas, because I haven't done this. I'm like, no. And actually, one of our robot was based off of a dumb ideas. So I'm like, and everyone's drawing every ridiculous thing they can draw. But then we go through and say, okay, let's take this off of here, because when our first year, it was important for us to go to the kickoff, just, getting them all in that mindset. But after that, I figured it was not it was not a wise way to spend our time, because we have to drive in 2 hours to one way and then another 2 hours back to, so it was just 4 hours of sitting in a van. That could have been time, brainstorming about things and putting together, debates or something productive instead of, being high on sugar and ice cream on the way there and then back. That's important too, but just have this time.
Yeah, that's right.
I wanted to bring up something else, Scott, if this is the time.
Before we move on, Steve, are we for sure a pickup spot, or have we just applied to be one?
We likely will be, yes.
Okay, so we've applied to be a KOP pickup. Hopefully we get the word back that we can cover the North Metro.
Yeah, I applied, and the feedback was that they wanted to know how big our venue was, and that's why my question.
Okay. So that's it. Go ahead. We can move on. I just wanted to clarify something that Steve had said.
So we, it seemed like my family would like to have some churcher, because we started something. We took a new initiative in Ashby. And last night, I'm sitting here, my phone chirping the whole time, getting annoyed because all these parents are, texting and posting on band app, and my school required that all activity, communication go via band app, but oh my goodness, I need to figure out a way to stop that. We're starting a new Lego program in my school, and the 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 main reason behind that too is to give these younger kids something to grasp onto, because when I look at my school right now, the demographic, the upcoming, fourth and fifth graders, the third, fourth, and fifth graders are excited about robotics, and some of them, being in a small town, many of our kids think, oh, I have to know how to play football, basketball, volleyball, the regular, the holy grails. Well, using Lego, we want to use that as a way to recruit for future robotic students, and so a lot of interest came up because we also been this summer we did our STEM camp, we did a robot in the park in a parade. So all of this kind of got the kids involved and they want to do this, and I think we have like 18, what now 17 elementary students who applied within time. There were more, but I kind of cut off the application because I just didn't want us being overwhelmed. Well, those of you that have FLL programs in your school or in your district, um, my goodness, sorry, within your district, can some of you please help me with the whole how do you go about this to work well with your robotics program, and what is the mesh between, what is the connection, and how much, because the way we're doing it, the parents are going to be doing most of the practices, and we are just going to be the logistical point, like the administrative things and those things. But one parent from there will be two different families running each practice, so that way it's not like, oh, a husband and a wife run the practice, just to keep it balanced. But also, some of them started asking questions before I even had an answer for them. So how do you run this in your programs if you have one?
We have a couple of FLL teams, and we run it through our community ed program in the Centennial School District. We have this year is the first year that we have two coaches. So there are parent volunteers who have students in the high school program, and then some of our high school students will mentor the middle school students. And we try and be deliberate on making sure that whatever day they choose for the middle school program, that's not the days the high school team is meeting. And it's been a bit of a challenge to try and get the students who can actually go to the competitions. This will be the first year that we're doing the mini in Prior Lake at the high school level for at least as long as I've been involved, and not doing the MRI in Roseville. That way our middle school students and their high school mentors will be competing on the same day. I think we have about 24 or so students signed up. Our kickoff is tomorrow at the middle school level with the parent meeting.
Sam and Tom, do you guys have Lego, Megahertz, and Millerbots?
Yeah, we do Vex IQ actually, and so it's kind of an interesting thing. Our booster club kind of runs a tournament for not just our school but a bunch of schools in our county, and so very similar to what you're saying, Jeremiah, where we have a bunch of parent volunteers that age level, and then we have some kids come in and kind of help with if a parent's saying, hey, I can be there, I can give snacks for the kids, but I'm not technically whatever savvy, our high school kids kind of pick up the slack there, run the practice field. And then a couple of our mentors kind of, I don't know, help oversee some of it, do logistics, all that. So some similar vibe anyway. And yeah, trying to get that pipeline going, just like you were saying, get them hooked when they're third, fourth grade. And I mean, it'll be a couple years, but long road to pay out, but yeah.
Well, because right now I have even fifth and sixth graders in my classes that want to do robotics, but they cannot do robotics until they're in seventh grade in my school. And so in the meantime, I kind of want to give them something to be doing that, give them some kind of a preparation. Be it if you're in Lego, you'd be doing block coding with that program, if that's something you would think you might want to, or just designing process, so just, it's just trying to get a bunch of parents to not drive my wife and I bananas is where, because some of them are overbearing, to be frank with you. Some of them are very strong-willed, nicely put. And so how not to make that one parent seem like, all right, I say it and it goes, it's like, versus not to murk the water, because I teach that kid too. That's a whole nother relationship too. That, it's just, yeah.
So Jeremiah, are you trying to how do you streamline communication? Is that what you're doing? Or are you trying to set up more of guidelines and guardrails for the parent leaders?
So what, because we sat here last night having supper and my phone went off the whole time. And I'm like, okay, I mean, sure, you can turn your phone off. However, you still got to read through those. So we were talking, and Brandon and I was like, hey, maybe what I would do is I'm going to, because we have two teams, I'm going to set up one chat group per team. If you have a team specific, dialogue or conversation or whatever discussion, it goes into those chats. If you want, because if we have two teams, but you can have something for the better of the group, as a whole, then you can post that into as a main thread, so then we can all see what you're talking about. Like when I set up a bulletin, I will post it. But if I wanted to say, hey, mini error box, this is what you want, specific golden errors have nothing to do with that. Their phone shouldn't be blowing up because of that. And I just have parents going, oh, talking about that kid's football schedule constantly last night, and I'm going I almost texted one of them like, please stop, but no.
Well, okay, so we don't have this exact problem because we're not running Lego teams yet. We've actually talked about it. We decided to postpone it this fall. We're doing unified Lego. We had a session on roundtable on that last year with special ed, and so we're doing unified Lego this fall, but we're not doing FLO. But in terms of communication channels, some suggestions that you could try is Discord or Slack or a Facebook group. And so you can use your school mandated text system for announcements. But Q&A could be directed to a chat room, like you said. So I don't know if you're using Discord or Slack or setting up Facebook group or something. But that's something that you could look at doing is we have to do, so Slack does not work. Slack and Facebook and Discord do not work inside of our school, but Google Classroom does. So we have set up a Google Classroom, and that is a announcements only, and Q&A. And the Q&A should only really be used if you're in school. So if you have a question of, hey, are we going until 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock tonight? That's a fine thing to post in the Google Chat Classroom during school hours if you have a question between classes. And then we have all of our other discussion happens in Slack. We tried to completely eliminate Slack because the school had banned it for, I will say, incorrect reasons. But they banned Slack inside the school because they said it didn't fit within the state laws. That's not true. It doesn't fit within state laws to use as curriculum. It doesn't have anything to do with activities. Doesn't matter. They banned it for everyone in the school. So we tried to use Google Classroom last year. It just was an utter and complete failure. It worked great if you had a question during the school day, but it wasn't a good way for our sub teams to effectively communicate or to share announcements that you could also have parents see. And so we have an outside the school communication system and we have an inside the school communication system. And we just dual post announcements in both places. So that's what we do. And it's not exactly the thing you're dealing with, but it could be something that you could do is you could sort of dictate, hey, the texting, that's just for announcements. If you have a question and it's not urgent, post it over here.
I guess I'd put it in chat, but yes, Scott, how do you deal with it? Do you ever have the situation where you have, kids at the school? We have it let's say kids are at the school at a meeting and we have a mentor who can only be remote that night. How do you handle that with your Slack and Discord ban?
Google. We use Google Meet for anything video. We use Google Meet.
Okay.
So that's how we're dealing with everything that's remoting. Is every student knows how to use Google Meet coming out of the pandemic. They all know how to use it. That's why we use Google Meet here, is because we know all the school districts have Meet. People know how to use it. So anything that's remote is always on Google Meet. And then for like in the school, I have just turned off my Wi-Fi in the school for my phone so that I get Slack messages on my phone. I can't use them. I can't use it on my laptop while I'm inside the school, unless I tether. But I've just finally started eating the data costs, and just I don't ever connect to the school Wi-Fi with my phone anymore, the guest network, so that the messages can come through. And in our school, you only get data on your phone if you're Verizon. If you're T-Mobile or AT&T, your data doesn't work inside the school. So that's a whole other problem.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah, so kind of repeating what Scott said with like using the data. Another thing, students, they also use VPNs because during school hours they just need to because the school blocks everything. But yeah, we use VPNs, and yeah, using data. Some people, they have like unlimited, they set up hotspots. Otherwise, yeah, just using Google Chat is basically what we do. It's really frustrating sometimes though.
Okay. That's probably what we'll do. That's kind of what we have the problem, or like when we're doing virtual practice, we'll use a Discord or a Slack, and then but you're at practice, they want to use something different. Maybe we should just unify on Google Meet and be done with it.
Yeah, we try to use the Google Classroom lets you set up. I mean, if you have your own domain, or if you can get access to have one set up through the school. So 2052.com is our domain, our team 2052.com, and so we set up a Google. Since our whole domain DNS is set up through Google, and we set up a custom Google Classroom. And the problem we had was that it's not nearly as easy as Discord or Slack, where students can join the rooms they're interested in. You have to invite them to every room you want them in, and they must accept the invitation for every single room. So when you invite a student to 5 different rooms, if they miss one, now they've missed one, and you can't see all the available rooms, so you don't even know that there's a room that you're not in. So if you have a design channel and you're in the build channel, you may not know there's a design channel. And if no one else notices that you're not in there, then you're missing all those conversations. Oh, Google Chat. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Ben. Google Chat. Google Chat, we tried really hard to make it work because it was an acceptable solution that would work on the school network. And it just was an utter and complete failure. And so we had to go to a 2-system solution. One that was the in-school announcements and questions only, and then all this normal collaboration and, hey, do we have enough of these, or do we need to buy some of those? Or I was doing a code review last night on so-and-so's code, and I noticed this. Does this look right? I mean, those type of discussions, they shouldn't happen during school anyway. I mean, yeah, I know kids have study hall and they have classes where they're not busy, but that kind of discussion all happens normally outside the school anyway. So we use an outside the school solution. It also is kind of nice because, I mean, we have had a problem in the past when Slack wasn't blocked, that students were not paying attention in class and they were having Slack conversations about building a robot. And so this sort of, except for the students like Nicole that are running a VPN and they can do whatever they want. So it is nice that the team is sort of, quote unquote, setting up systems that are intended to be used outside of school as to not distract from schoolwork. So you take the good with the bad. Find the positives where you can.
So Scott has over the years really helped our team with, CAT stuff, some programming help. And I had a thought, and this can be something no one in here, please don't feel obligated to saying yes. But if you know anyone who has some free time, right? We all have free time. That's why we're sitting out here. Just kidding. Anyway, I thought about something. I'm really thinking about if I can have people. I'm more of I think of it, I design it, I can build it and make it, see if it works. That mentality. But then you see when it comes to like you know, programming, that's where my team really, 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 really struggle. We, you know, programming and CAD. And so I know Scott is a very busy man. I mean, I sometimes feel so terrible when I keep calling him. Hey, Scott, do you have a minute? Hey, Scott, do you have a minute? You know, I'm asking if anyone knows anyone or anyone interested in, or what's even the thought of having like a consistent remote mentorship to my team. Like say, for example, let's say Sam said, you know what, every 2 weeks on this Saturday at this time, have your kids who want to do CAT, I set up a Google chat with them and we can go do some virtual lesson, that kind of stuff. You know, I'm thinking about exploring that possibly for my kids because I don't know a lot of all these other things, and I read that we need to make our team a success. They had a great year building that robot that we built from CAD, and they were like, "Wow, Miller, this is so awesome!" And I'm like, "I'm not designing a robot next year. Somebody got to step up and try to learn how to borrow parts that other people design, to mate it with what you want, and make it work." And that's what I did because of Scott get up lesson to one of my kids, and I was sitting in on it, and he had it recorded, and I went back and watched it over and over. So, anyone for the taking?
I think the hard. Go ahead, Sam.
Sorry, Nicole. I'm Aerobot 8878 out of Ashby, Minnesota.
Did you already check? Isn't there a state coaches or a remote mentor that First Upper Midwest or for FRC Northland? There's a link available on one of the websites, I think.
I haven't. I didn't even know there was such a thing.
Also, I think on First's website, there's a remote mentor connection thing which would get you, of course, across the country, potentially and around the world, remote mentoring. Just, it's a thought.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you.
I've been thinking for years now of trying to put together a 5 or 7 part series on like step-by-step CAD, but specifically like building a robot. So, okay, we're going to put together a sort of chassis, or we're going to put together the kit of parts chassis and how you would do the mates, how you put in the gearboxes. It's just so much time. I mean, to do a 1-hour video, it's probably 6 hours or maybe even 10 hours of editing and prep. And it's a lot of work. Maybe something like that already exists. I mean, it's very possible. I mean, lots of teams are doing stuff like that. I just don't know.
Yeah, Scott, they just came out in Chief Delphi. A bunch of groups came together and did, I think it's frcdesign.org, which is what we're actually going to be basing our CAD training on this year.
Oh, excellent.
But it's FRC related training, like the Onshape training is more CAD specific. This is actually, okay, how do you make frame members? How do you make gussets? How do you draw belts? So it's geared towards FRC.
Excellent.
So Ben, did you say that is it like a pre-CAD, training that you can run? Or is that something you got to register for and
No, it's an open website. You can go and they have kind of like course. It's like A, B, C, D.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, this is, how to log in and get an account, how to go and navigate the program, and how to make sketches, and then how to instead of having just generic examples, they use robot examples.
Because I had a one kid last year who was interested and somewhat still is, but all the on-ship tutorial, they're just like generic, how to do CAD. And then I'm telling him, well, take that and translate it to designing it. That's it, a kit apart frame. And he's like, but how?
Yeah, it's a hard leap to make. It really is.
Yeah, we're gonna try it this year. From what I've looked at it, it looks useful. Some of the things don't necessarily apply to the way we do things, but it's not a bad idea to teach multiple ways to do things. Like, I think, again, we usually design our gussets a different way, but they show you how to design gussets using, I can't remember what they're called. They're not plugins, but they're scripts, feature scripts.
Mm-hmm.
I just put the link to the FRC design in the Discord, or in the chat rather, and then there's a YouTube channel that's really good too that we've learned a ton from. Those are kind of our two go-tos for training.
CAD and cookies. Is this FRC? Is this Space Cookies?
No, this is oh man, he's an alumni from a Minnesota team actually.
Oh, Nick. Okay. CAD and cookies. Excellent. Well, this is great. I'll have to check that out. That's fantastic.
Yeah, Ben, we're planning on doing the same thing. We're just started going through that FRC design and like figuring out what our new member training is going to be on that, because there's no point in trying to make your own, because it's not going to be better. It's going to be at least as good as theirs, and it's like rather just build off theirs. So.
It's a lot of effort.
Yeah, we were looking at going and just doing the on-shape training, but the on-shape training kind of felt like, when you're at your job and they have like these modules you have to complete to check off a list, and it's just like they're not useful for anybody but the person that needs to have a list checked off is kind of what they felt like. So yeah, we're hoping this will work for us.
Yeah, we had the same experience with the built-in on-shape ones. A lot of kids ground through it, but didn't take a ton away from it probably.
I want to go back one topic on the Slack. If you decide to use Slack, you're legally required to get parental signature if your students are under 16. So make sure you do that. We just have that part of our sign-up paperwork that we do when kids sign up for the team, the photography release and all of that stuff. We put a notification to the parents and a waiver that their child is allowed to use Slack. That's what got the school hung up on Slack partly, but we showed, no, we have permission forms from all the parents. And then there's the second thing that got them hung up on that. So make sure you do the right thing if you're going to have kids under 16 using Slack. Does anybody have any other things? I want to chat briefly about the changes that are going to happen this year in FRC. Alliance selection is a big one. Anyone have any thoughts on alliance selection? You like it? Do you know what the changes are?
Scott, I would appreciate an overview. I'm not aware of some of the changes.
Okay, you guys can fill in the blanks for me, but my understanding is that you'll have up to 3 people from each team on the field. There must be more students than adults. So basically you can have 1 adult and 2 students, or if you only have 2 people on the field, you can't have an adult because you have to have more adults than students, I believe. And then you get 60 seconds to make a pick. Is it 90 seconds on the second round? So first pick, you get a minute and 90 seconds on the round. And then at the turn, you actually get double your time or something. If you have to make 2 picks back to back, is that right?
Wasn't it like 45 and 90 or something like that?
Maybe something like that. Okay. So there's a pretty short restrictive time on the pick time. And if you didn't make your pick in the allotted amount of time, you got skipped. And the next team went, and then they came back to you, but you had to have your pick ready immediately. And if you didn't have a pick ready to go, then they get skipped again and they went to the next one. So, I mean, I don't know. I think this would be good for our team. I mean, our team is a team that's usually really prepared. If we're on an alliance that is taking a long time to pick, it's usually because we're not the alliance captain, and the alliance captain is making a phone call back to their group, their mentor. So I don't have a problem with this for our team specifically, but we're also a team that does an enormous amount of scouting and does a really, really, really long strategy meeting for every event. So we are generally pretty well prepared. I'm curious to know what other people think of this change.
I was going to say, you missed another thing, Scott, is that they're not going to call the alliances to the field. They're going to, the alliance partners or the people accepting or denying are going to go to a central spot on the field. And one of the rationales for that I saw was that when you're in a stream, sometimes you're not showing the whole field and you have these voices from off screen, and also supposedly a time saver. But we'll see.
Sure. I mean, I could see that you should just get in line and queue up, right? So it's your turn to make a pick. You get your pick ready to go. I mean, if you're ready, you can congregate off the field if you want. You got 45 seconds to get to the center to make your call. Or if there's one alliance in front of you, you've got your two picks, either this one, or if it's taken, then you take this one. You just go get in line and you get up to the mic and shout it out. I don't know. I think the changes will be a positive change overall, but I do feel like it'll probably create some struggles for some teams. Maybe not. I think, the teams that you're calling back to the coach to say, what do I do? Now that person can be on the field, and maybe that's all. That's the right solution. Go ahead, Tom. You raised a finger.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I would have to go read it again. I did skim it over. I think they're picking a timeline that is no worse than the average, or maybe even so the general impact should be almost non-existent. But yeah, there might be a few high stress situations, like you said.
I did see in the Minnesota coaches Slack, there was some comments of, that's not how we do picks. We do it by committee, and the person on the field is in a phone call on speaker back to 6 or 7 people, and we're discussing it. And this would cut out too many students out of that decision process. Okay. I mean, I get that, but I also feel like, you can nominate your representatives to, if you're doing your strategy ahead of time, which, I think that's important, and you should have a pick list of 25 to 28 teams, cross them off as they get taken. And then, building that list should be a committee process, and then picking off that list could be a decision made by 3.
And I would recommend people have a decent sized whiteboard in the stands where the committee is, and just hold it up once they've reached their decision.
Sure. Yeah. The flip things for scoring, like volleyball or tennis. We bought some of those one year, and we flipped them around, and we bought a red one, and we had a red 2-digit one and a blue 2-digit one. We taped them to a board, and then we could flip them around. So you'd have a 4-digit number. I guess now you'd have to have a 5-digit number. But we did do that one year. We had a captain who wanted kind of that backup from the stands, because I can't remember if it was a he or a she, but they were less comfortable with making the decision off the pick list. So they wanted to have the opportunity to have somebody hold up a big number. Good call. Also think that's a good idea. I think really what it comes down to is preparation, right? The more prep you do up front and you have a decent pick list, I think it'll alleviate a lot of these issues. And maybe now it'll sort of mandate that teams do more prep.
I think it's going to be interesting to see in larger events. You have triple the number of people now on the sidelines. You have 48 teams with 48 representatives now times 3. And in some venues that might be quite crowded. So how they work crowd control is going to be interesting.
Yeah, that is definitely true. I mean, we think we'll have regionals that'll be under 50. I think we'll see. Last year we were supposed to be under 50, and we ended up with 63 at 10K. But yeah, I mean, if you're putting 180 people in and around the field, that's a lot of people.
Maybe I missed it. What's the penalty if you don't? You have 45 seconds to pick. If you
Get
don't pick,
skipped.
And then it comes right back to you
But you have to have, I believe you have to have your pick ready right after the next team gets done. Okay. You don't get another 45 seconds. And then if you get all the way to the end and you still haven't picked, you get assigned the next highest team.
Okay. I mean, there'll probably be a couple feel bad moments where that happens, but oh well. Not oh well, but hopefully, I don't know. I don't love that, but most teams pick fast, and there's always the whole thing about getting the drive team lunch too, and this whole like how lunch is like it's like actually a challenge. So I'm hoping faster this will make it just 10 more minutes to breathe. And I don't know, not have kids try to compete till 6 o'clock at night off breakfast. Probably be good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think being skipped is probably better than taking the next team by default. I mean, I think it would make more sense to let them be skipped than to force them to take the next team. You pick down the line. Most teams are picking down the line a lot further than the next team on the list. So I think skipping is the right choice. I do think though that it'll be an adjustment, and I think we'll see in the first few weeks we'll see a fair number of skips, and then as people figure it out, I think it'll become less and less common.
And I guess my only other comment, which is probably really secondary, is just we always kind of treated that role as the person who went out there as kind of like the big honor for our scouting strategy lead of like you went through all the work of grinding the numbers, and it's not necessarily as glamorous as being on drive team, but it's a ton of work. And it does feel like that's maybe like they don't get to do the lineup anymore, and there's a bunch of people down there. I think it'll be good for the program, but a little sad to see that kind of aspect go, that ceremony of it. But what are you gonna do?
I hadn't considered it from that point of view. We always have our team captain gets first right of refusal, and then it goes to our strategy lead if our team captain doesn't want to represent us on the field. Nicole, as our team captain, do you feel like it's going to diminish what you thought you were going to get to do versus being down there with two other people?
I mean, kind of, because I don't know how our team will be doing this whole thing, but definitely with the time limit, I think it'll just definitely be a little bit more stressful, because even like line selection overall is kind of like a stressful moment just from being watching, but it'll definitely be interesting. But I'm excited and just seeing how people will react and like just with the new updates and overall.
Are they going to do something to make it harder for the district teams instead of the teams like our regionals?
What do you mean?
Oh, it's just kind of a joke. If alliance selection is stressful and they're making it kind of harder by doing this, if you've got a district, you aren't doing that same thing, are you? Or am I? I guess I never paid attention to districts that much.
I would assume that they're doing alliance selection the same way districts. Were there any? I mean, I know that other big changes are primarily around champs, specifically around the hoteling issue at champs. But are there other big things that happened, or is alliance selection pretty much the thing that everyone is going to notice more than anything else?
I'm excited to see how those 2.5 day regional pilots go.
There you go.
Yeah, it's something that I probably have stronger. I don't know. I feel like I have a strong opinion on like making some of these events a little more sustainable, and I'd like to see more of them more sustainable. And hopefully, this is a step in that direction. I mean, even for us, we start to run into like mentor PTO. Like they don't have enough PTO at work, or like if you go to 2 of these regionals and you go to Worlds and you go to state, all of a sudden it's like, if you're a mentor, it's like, do I have time to do I have PTO to take a summer vacation now? Like,
sure.
And so from that point of view, I'd like to see it. Like I feel like we pull our kids out of a lot of school. These things are very expensive, but at the same time, I want to see it still run. I don't want to diminish it either. So I'm excited to see how it goes.
So now with the 2.5 day regionals, I mean, where are we saving the time? Because I remember that coming up, and what I remember about that was pits closed sooner. But what else how do we save? How do teams, like, how do we save PTO? How do we save money? Does this impact teams? Because I didn't think there was a way it impacted teams.
Well, so there's two. There's practice day pits will close sooner at every event. That's just happening. And then, but the 2.5 day, I don't think they've released a broken down schedule yet, but I'm thinking it's going to be like you show up at noon on Thursday inspection practice matches. Like basically, you don't have to do the Wednesday load in and the Wednesday load in and the Thursday morning.
I see.
I think.
So, okay. So the idea would be that you could travel Thursday morning
Yes.
and not have to get a hotel Wednesday night because you have to be on the field at 8 a.m. Thursday morning.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that as travel cost savings. Although we only do 2 nights in Duluth for our team now, and we send our pit team and drive crew up Wednesday night, and so we stay for usually 2 extra hotel rooms plus a mentor hotel room. So we don't spend hotel rooms for the whole team that way, but I know that a lot of teams don't do that. I know that teams, they'll send the entire team up Wednesday night. Okay. All right. Well, I can see that as a positive change. I'm not in favor of closing the pits early to save on catering costs. Find better venues. It's silly that you're.
When you say close the pits early, how early are they talking about? Because
2 to 3 hours earlier than normal.
Yep. Is it 6 o'clock?
it's been 6 o'clock, right? So hasn't it been 6 o'clock? Like,
it's been 7 to 8, I think.
Here's my concern with closing the pits early is that pits will close immediately after the last practice match.
yeah.
Now, if you're in the last practice match and you get busted up,
and then you queued up.
When are you going to fix your robot?
And then you queued up first 3 matches in the morning.
Exactly. I mean, if you now they close the pits at the end of matches on quals day, but if you had the last match of the day on quals day, it's going to be 5 or 6 matches before your next match the next day because the schedule just doesn't let teams compete that close together. They're going to have to change the practice schedule so that practice schedule is a continuation of the competition schedule to verify that teams they have at least 3 or 4 matches to get fixed. Because if you break in the last practice match, your last scheduled practice match. Now, if you're a filler bot, that's your own darn fault. You went in and you filled in a match at your own risk. But if you have the last scheduled practice match of the day and you're in match 1 or match 2, closing the pits at the end of the match day is not okay. That's just not fair for those teams. So hopefully they'll do that. Hopefully they'll figure out how to set up the scheduling so that it's basically just the rotation continuation of competition day. So that if you do get broken in practice matches, which I tell you, I think that happens a lot because, you're testing out your robot and people haven't figured out their autos yet and they run across the field at full speed and slam into other teams.
We still have damage on our robot from 18-16 practice match at St. Cloud. We still have damage that we're fixing on our robot. So I see what you're saying.
I mean, we're used to practicing at very, very large, expensive venues or competing. Nightcrawler competes in Duluth and usually in Minneapolis. And those venues are insanely expensive. And rather than finding alternative venues that are less expensive, we're, taking away into the day's time. I don't think that was a good choice. I mean, sure, I'm all for saving money. I've been saying for years, get out of these big, expensive venues to save money. So we can have more regionals. And I think this was really kind of a weak half step, honestly. But it's a step, and so let's look at it from the positive point of view here. We're making steps. And so hopefully this is the first of many steps that gets us into smaller, less expensive regionals so that we all compete more.
So question, Sam or Scott or whoever. So if they decide, if we're doing it 2.5 days, when do we know the breakdown of that schedule to modify hotel reservations that are already being made? Because, currently on the FRC calendar, the competition days, they have what seems like the same old loading day and then practice, and that Thursday and then the whole shebang. So there hasn't, that we need to kind of know in some time when we can make modification hotel reservations. And part of that too, like you said, PTO, my superintendent pretty much complained to my principal. He's taken up too many times. And I'm like, actually, not really. That many compared to what other people do for some trivial reason. But that's just going back to that same thing as the amount of, time off the kids are also being pulled out. if you're doing a back to back or 1 week in between competitions, it's still too many days for school and for them to get caught up and whatnot. So, but if anyone had any idea about it.
I don't think any of the events around us. So I know I believe the new Wisconsin one in Mukwonago is a 2.5 day pilot, I believe, but I don't think anything else unless they're gonna pop it on us in the next couple months. I sure don't think so. Which I mean, we actually had it and we still have a little discussion is it worth it trying to do the shorter thing, save some money, and cruise over there? But I don't think we're going to. But it was one of those things to think about. Drive an extra hour, but save that extra night. I mean, yeah.
Now, are all the Wisconsin regional, because Wisconsin's districts this year, right?
Next year.
Next year. Oh, so Wisconsin still is doing regionals one more year. Okay.
Yep. And they're weeks 4, 5, 6. So.
Oh, wow. That's rough.
Yep. So I'm guessing they're going to Wisconsin be piling into Duluth this year.
Duluth, yeah.
Yep.
We'll have a lot of people in Duluth, a lot of Wisconsin teams in Duluth to try to get early weeks. Wow, 4, 5, and 6. And I thought I saw someplace that there's only 4 week 2 regionals in the US, maybe. Somebody posted something like that where there was a week where there was only 4 in the entire US on one particular week.
I think that's right. Yeah. I think Midwest hasn't been set yet. Now sometimes as early.
Okay.
I think
is Midwest. Oh, is that Missouri or is that? Yeah, because Iowa regional's Iowa.
Yeah, Midwest I think is Illinois.
Illinois. Okay.
But that's good for the Milwaukee teams, I think, or it's an option for them. Yeah.
Okay.
Iowa's week 5 this year, so that overlaps with the new Minneapolis. So.
Okay.
Us Southern teams have to choose wisely.
I think I look forward to the state fairgrounds. I don't know if we're going to compete there or not. I don't know if we're even going to option it as one of our choices, but I look forward to having an event there, and I'll be going to watch regardless. But I'm excited for that venue. I really hope that venue works out.
Are any other members going there? Anybody on the call going to state fair, you think?
We're going to preference it.
You're going to preference it? Nice.
The captains haven't decided yet, but the mentors so far have recommended that as our first choice.
Cool. I'm interested.
I think it's the second choice for 2472, with Duluth Regional being the first.
Okay.
Yeah, we usually preference Duluth as our first option because we want to get in an early regional. So I suspect there won't be any spots left at the state fair for us unless we make it our first preference.
Did you all see there is advice if you want to get into one of the 3 metro, well, I'm counting the St. Cloud one, the 3 quote unquote metro competitions, the recommendation is only list one and list that one of those 3 and then pick up Duluth later, but I don't know if that's reasonable.
Yeah, I think that is good advice, but I just don't think there's going to be spots left in Duluth either because the Wisconsin teams are all going to snatch up the spots. So, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. That St. Cloud regional was a fantastic addition, and man, that filled up fast last year. I mean, that was filled up immediately last year. I'm excited. I anticipate that it'll be a permanent regional in St. Cloud. I think it was a good and smart decision. But yeah, I think it's nice that we have another regional. I just don't think there's going to be there aren't going to be open spots regardless. I just don't think that's going to happen. Any other changes? I mean, we've got sort of a horse in the race with champs because we always budget for champs, and this requiring teams to book their hotel room through First is I don't have a lot of good things to say about that. We know that it costs us more money to book a room through champs because we booked a room in 2022 with a hotel. We had a quote, we had a price, great price, amazing price with that hotel, and they sent us the final contract and the price went up $40 per night per room because they said we discovered that our chain for this region has a contract with First, so we have to charge you first pricing, and the price went up $40 per room per night. So we know that rooms that are booked through First will cost more because it's happened to us in the past, and it already cost us $33,000 to $35,000 to go to Champs. Any additional increase in price is just not a good situation for us.
Yeah, that would suck.
And I mean, I know it's kind of like you go to Champs and you're complaining about it. I try not to.
No, that would suck. I mean, that's silly.
No.
The
Yeah.
cost is real, and we happened to benefit last year by a team from Minnesota that didn't make it, and they canceled their rooms and their conference room. We were able to pick up on that, but it's a lot to figure out. I mean, we qualified work week 6 last year,
Yeah.
and trying to figure out how to come up with that type of money in that short a period of time, it was frantic. And luckily our school was very helpful. I don't know if in future years they'll be as helpful as they were
Right.
when this becomes a regular thing, because we continue to be successful. But
Yeah. And
we're grateful for them.
We haven't had our district cover any of our Champs costs since before the pandemic. It's been many years since our school has picked up any of those costs. So yeah, it's hard. I mean, the idea that you make it to Champs and you, I mean, we have a system. We know we hire a bus. We know how to schedule a bus. We know how to work with our bus drivers to and from. We stay away from the venue because we are paying for bus drivers for the whole week anyway. And now to have something completely screw up our system that we have figured out and know how to work, but then also cost us thousands of dollars of extra money is hard. It's really hard.
Well, honestly, I was a little disappointed to see we're locked into Houston for the foreseeable future too. I mean,
I agree with that too.
my location is half the cost. It really is. I mean, if it was, I know, whatever, praying for the old days.
Go back to St. Louis.
Yeah.
Put it back in the middle of the country, right? I also agree with the comments that were made too about one of the considerations for having First in charge of all locations was about safety. Several students in the LGBT community had made a comment of, then you shouldn't be in Texas if you're concerned about student safety.
We had that too. Yep.
So it's an unfortunate situation. I agree. I'm also disappointed that it's still in Houston. It dramatically raises all of our costs compared to all the other places that we've had regionals, Champs. So I don't know. We had a backup plan last year. We had a plan B for Champs. We budgeted at the end of our budget year. Our students walked away from our budget knowing that we were budgeting for $12,000 in the hole. Now, having a budget deficit is nothing new for us. We're just like, okay, we got to figure out how to get a new sponsor or new fundraiser or something like that. And so we know where our gap is or projected gap is going to be, and we know we have to make it up. But 12,000 was a big gap. We made it up and we were able to send everybody, but we did have a plan B that we were only going to send drive team and pit crew to Champs, and everyone else was going to scout from home. So I assume that'll probably end up being our budget cycle going forward forever until Champs is no longer in Houston. Is that we'll have to have if we qualify, here's a plan A if we can raise all the money, and here's a plan B if we can't. I mean, you got to qualify first, right? Step one, got to have a good enough robot. But to Stacy's point, I mean, you get in a week 6 and you haven't budgeted for it. You haven't made a plan around it. I mean, talk about mission impossible. You guys did awesome last year. I mean, I know that I answered lots of questions from you guys on a few things. But yeah, super hard to do. I think that Champs
help was so appreciated, and it was so out of the blue that we did qualify. And we had multiple plans, and we were able to pull it off with the help of the school, with the students not having to kick in anything.
Yeah,
which is
that's great for
incredible.
You guys. Just so awesome. I think that moving Champs back will help a lot with the logistics part of that whole thing. It's not going to happen this year, but Champs is going to be a week later next year, and then 2 weeks later the year after that. but now you're pushing into graduation, you're pushing into all these other problems, AP exams, finals, all kinds of other issues that pop up. So it'll be interesting to see how all of those things shake out, not only this year, but in the next 2 years as well. Well, it's 8:30. I wasn't even watching the clock. Holy cow, we've already hit our 8:30 mark. Does anybody have any other closing things that we want to do? And before we wrap up, any final comments? I really could use some help getting the schedule filled out. So in the email that goes out every week, there's a link to sign up if you're interested in hosting a conversation or want to give a presentation. Please, by all means, go sign up. Help me out. And don't make me pick a topic every week or force one of my Nightcrawler students to come up with a last minute presentation. I'd really appreciate it. And don't forget, I mean, even if you're not an expert, I'll keep saying this probably till the day we stop doing these roundtables. Is one of the best presentations we had is when Talon gave a talk about wiring, and their slides were, tell us how to do this, tell us how to do that, tell us how to do that. I feel like that was a fantastic talk that night, sort of a reverse presentation, if you will. If you're a team that's struggling with something and you want other teams' help, host that topic and bring all your questions. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. It's good to be back.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you. Bye.
That's it for this week's FRC Roundtable. Join us live all season long, every Sunday night. Visit the website at team2052.com/roundtable to sign up for weekly invites. In the meantime, keep building, keep learning, and we'll see you next week.